Welcome to Truck You Podcast. My name is Sebastian. This podcast is all about trucking. We love diesel engines, semi-trucks, being on the road, and freedom. So let's go. Welcome to Truck You Podcast. My name is Sebastian. Today, my special guest is Michael Melwicks. What's up, Mike?
Oh, not much. Just came to Chicago to visit my good buddy Sebastian.
I know. That was my first question. You just blew it. I know you came to see me, but what are you doing in Chicago?
Well, we've never been here. It's one of the prime freight locations. We actually thought we may open an office here, and we're looking around a little bit and kind of dipping our toes in the water from a Chicago perspective. So we decided to take the family, come here and check things out, and of course call you.
And feel it out, see if you can actually do something here.
Exactly. Yeah,
Okay.
see it, check it out.
So let's take it step by step. So let's first, can you introduce yourself and tell us what you do and what's your company name, what do you guys do?
Sure. Michael Melwicks, and my company is Moto Transportation. We're a less than truckload cross-border specialist, consolidator, freight forwarder, trucking company, and customs broker. And what we do is we primarily consolidate freight in the U.S. and Canada, in Western U.S. and Western Canada, as well as Ontario. And we consolidate freight, move that cross-border, handle the transportation with the customs included. And we don't do the brokerage for everything, but we do handle the process. So we consolidate trailers and then deconsolidate them, and distribute and pick up and do it in reverse. So Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Tell me what year you started the company.
Started in 2012. So been in business for about 10 years. And, we started, in my house, in my basement. And
Why would you start a company like that? Tell me more about.
Just to be a basement dweller. When we started the company was, I saw a big need for, in 2012, technology was really starting to, cloud-based technology, to be more specific, was really available and not being super utilized by transport companies. So, it was simple as Outlook, for example.
Yeah.
It's computer-based, and you've got a system like Gmail that comes along for a workplace, and just simple things like that, being able to be virtual, spread out without having servers on premise was like the key for me. I just didn't want to spend that money on servers anymore.
Yeah.
So I went to a SaaS-based platform, totally virtual, and that's what we did.
But tell me a little bit more about your background. How did you end up starting the company? So tell me briefly about what happened before you were like, yeah, I'm pulling a trigger on starting my company.
Multiple things. I started in like a family business trucking company out of university, and gave me some great knowledge, and worked for them for like probably 12 years. Did everything, you name it, they did it in trucking, transportation, warehousing, railroad, all sorts of things, and left there to go to a similar business to what I'm operating right now, and worked for them for 10 years and built a substantial part of that business out. And I got to the point where I'm said to myself, it's like, listen, what am I doing here? Like, I'm building this business, and I don't think it's building in the right direction. Mm-hmm. It's what this person wants to do, the owner of the company, and I decided to do my own thing. And it was heavily based on technology, trying to do more with less. And that's where I kind of branched out my own and decided to try my hand as an owner instead of an operator.
Nice.
Yeah.
And tell me a little bit, so we get a better picture of, are you asset based? What's your model? What's your business model?
Yeah, it's a great question. In the transport world, it can be anything and everything, but we kind of do a little bit of everything. So our model is we do have assets, and we do fuel trucks, and we are a freight broker, freight forwarder, trucking company, consolidator, customs broker that kind of operates in harmony, if you will. So we keep our trucks, kind of busy on our own lanes, and with our specific lanes, we run a ton of like California and Texas to Canada. Mm-hmm. So our trucks run the schedules, And then we will go outside to partner carriers that we work with on a regular basis, who may have an agreement with them, maybe not, and to fill where our trucks aren't. So we'll do that. And then we have a full-on brokerage company that if we can't handle something from our lanes and a customer wants to deal with us, we'll do that for them. And that's flatbed, dry van, anywhere in North America. We don't do a hell of a lot into Mexico, but we do service a lot of freight coming from Mexico. And then the consolidation aspect is we're like almost called like a freight forwarder, because we handle the freight and may or may not go in our trucks, but we consolidate our terminals in the U.S. and we pack those trailers and send them to the next terminal. So that's a consolidation point. And then we will clear the shipments for customers if required.
Okay. So tell me, how big is how many employees do you have right now?
We have about 45 employees.
45. Okay.
Yep.
That's a decent size. That's what would be, what's the 45? Tell me some of the major operation divisions you have, departments.
Yeah, for sure. Of course, we have drivers. We have support staff. We have a customer service department. We have a sales department. We have an operations department. We have an accounting department. And we have a management team. So I would like to see us a bit smaller, to be honest with you. I think we're a bit bloated at times. But we went through a bit of an uptick this year, probably one of our better years. Early in the year, just do some restrictions and whatnot. So 45, those people are doing everything from a day-to-day perspective that goes on a transport company. There's lots of moving pieces and lots of things going on at all times, as you well know.
Oh yeah. Tell me, what is starting off? You said 2012.
Yeah.
What was the first year like?
First year was actually surprisingly good for us. We had a lot of people that aligned with the company, and we started off. I had a couple partners at the time, and we all knew the business, and it was easy for us to move freight, and we were a full broker at that point. And we actually had a pretty, I didn't take salary, of course. I was grinding it out, and we were working, and we're building a business, and we did a lot of great things early on in our operation. And we got to the point, maybe a bit slightly arrogant, we started buying trucks and flatbeds, and we got heavily into the recycling business. And that in 2015 I'm going maybe a bit fast, but 2012 to 2015 was very, we scaled, we grew heavily in those first 3 years to the point we're growing 50% a year because we're small.
Yeah.
You can do that kind of stuff. But we started buying these trucks, and we started getting busy in having drivers, and starting buying trailers and trucks and moving freight. And I don't think our customer base was quite there. And it was a great time. And then we had 2015, and the bottom dropped out of the market for us with what we were hauling. We were hauling pipe from overseas into oil field, oil and gas, and it kind of dropped out from us. And then we had to just pivot.
What year was that?
2015.
15. So you had smooth sailing for 3 years?
Yeah, 3 years of pretty smooth sailing. Things were rolling along for us. We had everything kind of dialed, and it was a really good business. We had really good success in the first 3 years, and then it got to a point in the business where we had to really focus on where we were headed and what we were doing in terms of main revenue drivers.
So how did you pivot? What happened there?
So we sold. So 2015, we were hauling pipe into Alberta quite a bit, and a lot of flatbeds, and we're doing recycling of steel. And that just kind of dried up. China's demand was not there. Canada's demand wasn't there, and we were also doing less than truckload freight at the time. We kind of just started, winding one down and winding another one up, if that makes sense. So we saw the writing on the wall. Stock prices were dropping in steel, and commodities was the price was under pressure, and we decided just to go a different direction. We didn't. We had one major customer that was probably responsible for 40% of our business. And, you can't sleep at night sometimes.
I know.
Ask
me how I know.
Exactly. How do you know?
Yeah. It's not about me. It's about you.
Okay, fair enough.
So continue. So you pivoted. So tell me about 2015, 16.
Yeah, rough year for us. We pivoted. We kept some trucks we went to dry van from flatbed. So completely shifted gears. We knew the dry van business. We knew it was there, and quite honestly, it's a sales play. You know what I mean? We had to start doing business. We start had to prove ourselves in the industry, gain market share, and deliver on what we said we're going to do. So that just takes time. You just can't do it overnight.
So we're 2015, 16. We're
Yep.
right now in 2022. Give me the next 4 or 5 years of what your company went through and to where you're at right now, and kind of share with me some of the oh shit moments and some of the things that you've learned to actually looking back and say, hey, those were epiphanies or big lessons for me that I took away from
Yeah.
building the company.
Yeah. So first off, having a huge customer base is my dream. Just to have being able to have orders to pick from, more or less. So having that one customer that was 34% of our business was not really a good thing for us to do at the time. And so we started like diversifying. That was major learning lesson for us. It's great revenue. We're doing tons of revenue, and it's just like awesome. Everything, you can't go wrong. We're making tons of cash. Everything's great, but at the end of the day, that dries up, and you have to make some hard decisions. So that's lesson one: diversify our customer base. We did that, and then we, to do that, we had to add sales to it. So we were dry at times, and when things go south, we got nothing to do. Like, where do you find business?
Yeah.
It doesn't come to you. We've got online marketing, and we've got a website, and we've got all these things. We really had to go heavily into rep-driven business, and we went heavy into that. And sometimes, and if you're not going to be able to afford these people, and they either got to produce or you've got to move on. So we had some hard times. Keeping reps engaged with a smaller business at that time, trying to grow very niche market. And, I guess most recently, one of the tough times was we had a pandemic type situation happen at our border. I'm not sure if you know or not, but
Oh yeah.
so what happened is a lot of carriers, U.S. carriers, were running Canada, and when the government put in place that you had to be vaccinated or you couldn't enter, American carriers don't like it, coming to Canada at the best of times. We've got lots of, maybe sketchy roads. We got some winter things going on, some mountain passes, and I just don't think that they really cared to come up there that much when this was all happening. And what happened to put the pressure on us, on Canadian truckers, to really service what was going on, and we didn't have enough equipment to service our own freight volumes, and we got caught probably with our pants down, having to, obey absurd pricing from in the industry, and that's something we just learned. Like, we're putting more trucks on right now. That's what we're doing. Is we're getting asset heavy again instead of asset light, and controlling our own destiny, controlling our own pricing. Of course, with fuel being the fuel, and maybe driver pay being the variables there, but we really got caught with our pants down there.
Tell me the difference between Canadian market and U.S. market from your experience in trucking. And what I'm looking for is what are some of the things that stand out for you that me not knowing Canadian market, like what are the differences between trucking there and here?
Yeah, there's big differences. There's a difference in hours of regulation. You can run a bit longer in Canada, just on a regulatory basis. But most
How long?
I think it's like 13 hours. Don't quote me on that, but it's much more than the 10 or 11 we're down here, right?
Yeah, it's 11 here. Yeah.
Yeah. So the situation is we got a few more hours to run, but demographically speaking, in the freight world, 90% of the freight moves by rail. East-west. Canada is, I can't remember the exact number, but most of the population lives within 100 miles of the U.S. border.
Yeah.
And so all that freight moves along flat lines.
Do you think it's because they want to come to the U.S.?
I know. Well, that's, well, so just to throw it even farther out there, there's more people in the state of California than all of Canada.
Yeah.
So, and we've got the second largest country landmass-wise in the world.
Yeah.
And we're all stuck along the border.
So a lot of square footage of land per citizen, right?
Yeah. So think about that. And then in the U.S., from my perspective, is that you can run, anywhere you want to in the U.S. There are so many major markets that you can run to, it's absolutely phenomenal. Like I can't even. There's so many combinations. We just talked about earlier today about Chicago too. 300-mile radius. Like you're hitting like probably 10 major points, major freight centers. And in Canada, they're probably 700 miles apart, if not more. So, we've only got a select few to run against. And you've got this border involved and a heavy intermodal presence in Canada. So, like I said, rail. Lots in the U.S. as well, but just a bigger market down in the U.S. Like there is more people, more freight.
Yeah.
I'm currently got my eye on the Dallas market right now. It just blows my mind how many warehouses there are that are over 1 million square feet there.
Because you just tell me, let's dig in a little bit more. You just relocated to Dallas, didn't you?
Yeah. I relocated to Dallas, and we thoroughly enjoy it. But being Canadian, in the U.S. market, I look at the U.S. market, and it's just mind-boggling.
Yeah.
How much freight there is moving.
Opportunities.
Oh, opportunities and freight, and it may not be all great opportunities, but there's opportunity for sure.
Yeah. What are you going to do about it?
I'm going to try and take my piece of it.
The Canadian bite.
Yeah, I take my Canadian bite of it,
freight.
and that's for me. It's back to we have a really good terminal in Dallas, and it's high functioning. We're running some intra-U.S. Points now. We're connecting our U.S. terminals, and we've also got a big sales push going on in the U.S. right now. So that's what we're trying to do. Is while I'm down here, I'm trying to make the most of it.
Okay. So the next, I don't know if I exhausted the background and the history of you building your company, because I would like you to at least give me a little bit of more of like, oh shit moments. I'm going through one right now. You know that.
Yeah.
We're in EO Logistics Forum, Entrepreneurs Organization, and we know about our businesses, or we know of what I would like to maybe bring out to light is what was some of the, and I don't know if there are. I mean, you tell me if there's something that
it's the hemorrhaging cash moments. That's
Yeah.
the oh shit. You look at your books and you're like, wow, like we're losing, like we're geared for this level of business, but we're not getting, we're not getting there.
Yeah.
And we're running at a deficit here. And, the cutting quickly and cutting deeply thing, those very hard things that you need to do that are very tough to do because you've got friends in the business, or you've got longtime employees, or you think you've got this narrative in your head. These are the toughest things you go through in business, the ups and downs. But at the end of the day, just allude to this again, is that you've got to make sure the business is healthy at all times so that you can support these people in the future, or support the people that are staying with you. So we went through a couple of things, in 2018, there's some things that pressures got put on the free trade agreement, which we're heavily involved in the cross-border, sacks our business, or things really soften out, and we have to make these decisions. So, startup-wise, and looking for something that really is like, oh shit, and that's the biggest one for me, is like just having, and I know you feel my pain, like we have equipment that we just don't know what to do with. I've got drivers, I got people, I've got families counting on the business. We can't keep busy, and it's just, oh shit, what do you do, right? And that's the toughest thing, is you're not being prepared for that. So we just made a pact to ourselves just to be diverse. We've got like that's why when I mention off what we did as a company, we do a bunch of things, and it's diversity for us, right? Like that's what we're trying to mitigate our risk.
Yeah.
Because we've gone through many times. It's like we make money, we lose money. You know what I mean? It's just not like it's just like we're cranking all the time. It's not like that.
Yeah.
You got to have cash in the bank for those lean times, and it happens more often than not, depending on who gets involved, or what the market is, or who screws with NAFTA, or who shuts the border down. You just don't know, right? So it's just like, I'm kind of done with it, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
It's a bit cyclical and taxing.
It is, and you never know at what point what type of next COVID like environment we're going to be in, right? Like now you have the war on top of everything, and it's affecting a lot, even though it's indirect, but it's affecting a lot.
Yeah.
And especially for a small business owner, you're like, well, what's the next event that's gonna
Hurricanes,
hurricanes is one.
wars,
Yeah.
tariffs, rail strikes.
Oh, yeah.
All these things. It's like, one of the best exercises I've ever done through EO is it's called the headline exercise.
Tell me more.
And it's like, it's an exercise you do that is basically write a bunch of headlines that would absolutely ruin your business,
Oh, okay.
right? Write these out and then prepare for them. It's like, what are you going to do? How are you going to avert these things? And some of the things for me that's come up, is border closures, which have happened for us. We had some strikes in Canada that closed our borders.
Yeah.
And what do you do, right? Like, what do you do? Or fuel being, stop selling diesel. You know what I mean? Like, or diesel runs out or something like that.
Yeah,
You
then
know what
you
I mean?
just stop.
You
With
just
the border closure, you could just go north, right?
You could, but then exactly. Then what do you do though? Like, it's starting. Like, we're not geared up for that, right? So it's one of those things. So it's an interesting exercise.
What do you, if you go north from me, what do you hit? Russia?
Yeah, sooner or later we get to the Bering Strait,
Yeah,
and then we had to take a boat 90 miles across to Russia.
No, but you're right. It's something that, the vision. What I like, what you just said is, you build out the vision that you have for the company, and you're so into it. I'm speaking from experience, being very into executing on the mission and the vision. And when any type of correction or change of environment happens, you get a slap on your face, like, hey, you got to calm down and face the reality, and this is no longer what you thought it was, right? And so tell me about your vision more, because I would like to know your vision for, okay, you're now in Dallas. What's the near future? What's the future for you?
Yeah, so we're trying to add, like, we got a major vision. I don't want to let you know all of my secrets, but
No.
but I'm gonna give you some of them.
There's nobody listening. So
Okay, good. So we've got a big goal in terms of the amount of daily shipments we want to handle, and we've got that in place. We've got an amount of trucks we want to grow by. We want to, we've got a dozen trucks right now. We want to be at 50 in the next 3 years. So we've got some things going around that, and then we've got, we've got what happens with our vision. I'm very proud of our vision. It takes a lot of time for us to develop it. Or we've got a great management team that has a lot of input in this thing. But what happens with me is I go and I find these things and I throw them on top of the vision. So we've got a plan, if this makes sense. But like, I see these things like as a visionary for the business. I've got a big service initiative going on right now. I may have talked to you about this before, but like, I'm all about service. Like, I want to out-service everybody. And that wasn't part of our plan. And now it's on, like, I've laid this on top of whatever we're doing right now. So on top of trying to get our shipment goal, on top of trying to get to this many trucks, on top of all of this stuff, I've laid this on. So the vision, I don't know if I answered your question or not, but the vision for me is just what we need to do to be a business. And then what comes along, when you start getting through this vision, certain things rear their ugly head. Like, we've got a service issue. We've got too much staff in this area, or we don't have enough staff in this area. And these certain things, as you move, you can't possibly, account for all of this stuff. So we have a strong vision. We have strong core values, and which is no bullshit, stupid, smart, and get her done. Okay. That's our three.
I like it.
Yeah.
Very simple.
Very simple, 3 of them, and we live by them. We hire by them, we fire by them. And, if it creates, some things we on our vision works for us, and some things we just creates a bunch of bullshit and we get rid of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I don't know if that answers your question vision-wise, but it's a very, very big question.
It is, yeah.
But, it's all about reverse engineering what we want to get to and crushing goals every quarter.
Yeah. Good. That answers the question about the vision 100%. What I would like for you to tell me is what would you want to see in the industry to be fixed? What do you think that's been something that you think could be fixed in the industry to make it a better place for truckers and for small trucking companies?
I think
Is there anything at all?
Yeah, oh yeah, there's tons of them. Let me just my top one. I talked to a buddy about this the other day. Is about
Regulations.
regulations. You know, there is like I love safety. Don't get me wrong,
yeah.
but you know the stupid regulations we have from a long haul perspective. That's one thing. Like that needs to be fixed. That's a no brainer, and that's just a prime example of government getting involved in something they shouldn't. You know what I mean? Like, there's got to set regulations. I get it, but like not being realistic about what's going on. So hours of service, that's one thing. But load boards.
Okay, tell me more.
Okay, so load boards, there's a ton of them. Everybody kind of has one of the big carriers have them, and they give freight out and things like that. But they're missing quite a few things in terms of the latest and greatest technology. And very simply, I think it needs to be more like more of like a review-based system where, you know, the loads, there's a lot of people just fishing on there. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people just, you know, they're not, the rate structure is wrong. There's no bidding process. There's no review process of how good these shippers are or these freight brokers, how good the carrier is, how many times they've dropped the ball.
Yeah.
You know, it's not very, and it's not streamlined. There's so many boards out there. I think that they could do a better job of, you know, getting on the same page.
Do you think it's a regulation or is it maybe Googleization where you have a little bit more access and maybe reviews of both sides, or the Amazon type where you have a rating, star rating,
seller rating, whatever the situation be? I think it should be brought a bit more modern. These are just systems that have been around.
Platforms.
Like they've updated. So, for example, in Canada and the U.S., you know, I've heard of DAT, right? The Canadian version is called Link, and Link runs totally separate from DAT, but it's the same data. You know, DAT has a review system. Link doesn't. You know, DAT has what the loads are paying. Link doesn't. You know what I mean? Like getting these people on the same page and just creating the best of both worlds. It's prime for the taking. Like, I don't know why someone hasn't done it yet, or why these companies that are charging, there's a big dollars being charged. I think we pay we have 5 or 6 users on the load boards, and we pay probably close to $1,000 a month for it.
Yeah.
Like that's
Isn't that
from a
crazy?
SaaS perspective,
That's
that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
It does make a lot of money, but sorry.
Yeah. No.
That's a lot of cash.
Yeah, you're right. No, 100%. I would say I agree with everything you're saying, and I would say I'm almost excited to see the new version of maybe the Web 2.0 of how that's going to change. And I don't want to get into that right now. I think it's a different podcast, but how that's going to change the freight market and the logistics and the load boards, because there is a lot of that nonstop pulling back and forth between carriers and shippers and brokers that and I think there's, you know, as any I would say industry has people that just do wrong.
Yeah.
We have that a lot. We have that in our industry a lot. And it's not because of trucking, it's because it's everywhere. It's not only here, but maybe trying to weed that out a little better, right? Get those guys that really just are there to take advantage of the system, of the imperfections of the system that I've seen.
There's no honor among thieves.
Yeah, right. But maybe the system can, like, think about eBay versus Amazon, right?
Yeah.
Like how eBay, you could still be scammy and sell shit, and then all of a sudden you get stuff and like, what is this? I didn't order this.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
On Amazon, it was completely, I mean, to my knowledge, and I might be wrong, but I think it was a lot harder to do with the verification steps, with process, and being present on Amazon and gaining some kind of, right? So I believe in that aspect of technology, hoping to see that in the next version of logistics, like, hey, like, just get rid of those brokers that just are 100% just taking advantage of everything, right?
Yeah, and it's the same hand, get rid of those carriers too.
Yeah, yes,
these guys, like, I can't tell you how much during the spring of this year, how many times our brokerage department told me that someone had booked a load and dropped it on them.
Yeah.
Like that before that happened to us, like very few and far between. Like, we're not a perfect seller either, but like these guys were like, it was happening every day.
Yeah.
Because of the market. And that how can you build a business, right?
Yeah, you're right. Look, I enjoyed this. I hope we're going to do it more.
Yeah, for sure.
I want to wrap this up and So next time we're going to talk about what I would say. I mean, there's a lot of topics.
Man, there's a ton of stuff. I'd like to talk about TMSs. I'm super passionate about that. Sales, all sorts of things I got for you.
I think sales is our next topic for sure. And I appreciate you coming, man. I appreciate you
Thanks for having me.
showing up. It was a great evening. And we're going to continue tomorrow. But today that's a wrap. I would say subscribe, share. Tell me, Mike, what are some of your platform, where you at, website, all the good stuff?
Yeah, we're at www.shipmoto.com. You can find us there, and all information is online, and get all of us there if you're interested in shipping cross-border.
Appreciate you, brother. Thank you very much.